Welcome to Robert Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a YouTube video podcast where we explore storytelling on film, as well as interviews with industry professionals who work in film, television, theater, among other areas of the arts. I want to welcome to the show Heidi Von Palleske, who is one of the most respected actors in the film and television industry, an honors graduate from the George Brown College Theater Program. She has gone on to star in over 40 films and television programs. Heidi was the second female lead in David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers, which we're discussing, of course, today. She is a published poet and has won the H.R. Percy Award for Best Novel Manuscript in Eastern Canada, the Toronto Short Story Competition, a Toronto Arts Council Award, and an Ontario Arts Council Award for her fiction writing, among so much more. Heidi, welcome. Thank you so much again for doing this.
Thank you. And I guess since the time that bio was written, I think I've moved that up to 7 Arts Council awards.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because
Yeah.
I found this online, and you've done so many incredible things. Also, as
I've been doing a lot of writing too, right?
Yeah.
So I really, like you, I wear different hats. And yeah, so I think that we were talking earlier about the pandemic, and I think the thing that got me through the pandemic is that I also write. And I know that all of my actors friends, they had a hard time through the pandemic because acting is such a collective thing.
Yeah.
So you need other performers, you need other people, but writing you can do in quiet and secret and darkness.
Exactly. Solitary.
So yeah. So that really got me through. Yeah.
Well, luckily we all have either found something or had something or went crazy, or a combination of the three.
Yes, a combination, yeah.
But I wanted to ask off the top, because I know you were born in Toronto, but do I have this right that you grew up on a farm somewhere?
Oh my goodness, yes, I did. I grew up on a small farm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like about 10 acres, and but it had a little bit of everything. We had some cows, we had some ponies, we had rabbits and chickens and geese, and so it was kind of a crazy farm. And we lived pretty close to the earth. We grew our own food. We're kind of organic before people were talking about it that much. And it was on the shores of Lake Ontario.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I think that played a lot into how I grew up, in a sense. When I look at some of my like my last novel, a lot of it takes place on a farm outside of Toronto, and so I think that being close to the earth, I think has that affected me as an artist in many ways, and maybe as an actor too. I think that there's a real sense of understanding life and death when you grow up on a farm, and birth, and so growing up close to the earth and a part of it and living off the earth, I think really I come across as very urban, and I feel very urban. I really feel like I'm part of the Toronto landscape, and this is my city, and I'm one of those people who loves Toronto. And so in many ways I'm very urban, but there's a part of me that still has the country girl in her.
Mm-hmm. And now, why did your family decide to move to a farm, or were your family already living there before you were born?
No, honestly, my father worked in an asbestos factory.
Right.
And I think that he felt that having a country life might, prolong his life a bit longer than, a lot of the other people who are dying from asbestos. And he was right. He outlived everyone by, about 20 years. So, so he just thought, I better start being more organic and, and be fit and swim and run and eat organic food. I think that part of that was him trying to, live beyond the industry he was in.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
And when did your interest in acting begin?
Well, I would like to say that it began when I read Antigone when I was 15, but it was before that. When I was in 3rd grade, I wrote, directed, and starred in my own plays weekly at school, and so I had I had a nice teacher, Mrs. Wilson, who allowed me to do that. And I would cast, my schoolmates, and I would write a play every week, and we would do it, and I wore the 3 hats as a kid, not realizing that was maybe a little egomaniacal, but but I did.
I love
and then I got really interested in the sciences, and so throughout high school, even though I was part of the drama club, I really focused on language and math and sciences. But then one day I was, in the big old bathtub in the farmhouse reading Antigone, and I thought to myself, I mean, I couldn't believe that such thoughts were in a play. I couldn't believe that someone could write like that. And so I thought that if words like that could be written, it was my job to be an actor and bring those words to people's ears. And so I actually got into it for the best of reasons. And it wasn't because I wanted to show off. It was because I loved language. I love words. I love plays. I love stories. And so it was all about bringing, great plays, to people. And then when I was in theater school, it became clear that I was an actor that was best suited for film. And then eventually, you read some great scripts, which inspires you. You read some horrible scripts, which also inspires you. And at some point, I realized that it wasn't enough just to bring words to people. I had to write them as well. So
What made you feel when you were in theater school that you were better for film?
I'm a subtle actor. And I'm not. I mean, okay, I'll tell you a story. When I did My Animal in Timmins a year and a half ago, I had this scene where I had to cry, but they also had to have a long shot going through the whole house, and you hear me wailing and crying. And so I said to them, just get lots of the crying so we don't have to do this in ADR, because I don't want to have to go in and cry in front of a microphone. Let's just do it now. So they had me crying for about, 45 minutes or so. And I started crying from the time we did our first blocking. And then someone came up to me and said, how do you fake cry like that? And I said,
It's not fake.
fake cry.
Yeah.
That wasn't fake, And they went, no, I didn't mean that. I said, I don't fake anything. And then I said, the question shouldn't be, how do I cry like that? It's how on any given day I don't cry like that. But
Good answer.
but so with film, you kind of put yourself through the paces in that you really have to feel all those things. You really have to do all, if you're angry, you can't fake things.
Right.
You have to find that place in you. And I think in theater, you're doing the same show night after night after night. And I think you have to rely on the technique of being able to project that to the back row.
Right.
So film is like, it's not just in your face, it's in your head. And and theater is beyond you, right? So one is kind of more ritual and the other's alchemy. And then there's just the relationship with camera. And, some people just come alive with camera and some don't. And it was clear that I was better in front of a camera than I was in front of an audience.
Was that something, a conclusion you came to, or were the teachers at the school saying?
The first day of film class in second year.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my teacher took me aside and went, you better think about film, right?
Oh, I see.
Right off the top. So that made me start thinking about it. But then I always felt strangely great in front of a camera. Like I never felt like, oh, there's a camera pointing on me. I felt in fact, I felt more relaxed with a camera on me than in a room talking to people. So yeah, I mean, I did a book launch and I was really nervous because we did at the Gladstone Hotel and we had lots of people and I felt quite nervous. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was a director. And I said, I would have been fine with all those people in front of me if I had a camera on me. Because it would have been me and the camera.
You need a script.
Yeah, they could have been crew, right? They could have just been crew. So I think that I mean, that said, I've done a few big, big performances. I've done some over the top performances. It's not like everything I do is subtle.
Right.
But My Animal, I mean, she was out of her mind. But and it was great fun. But yeah, I like the camera. I do.
I remember years ago seeing Al Pacino get the AFI Life Achievement Award, and when he was giving his speech at the end, I think he said something along the lines of, "If I only had a character or a script right now," because he was just at a loss. I took that as, anyways.
Yeah, the trick is to have that and then make it seem like you don't at all. You're talking off the top of your head, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you do much theater after, or did you
I
just?
started off in theater. I did.
Okay.
I started doing, summer stock and like repertory. But I was in film within a year.
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And so
Yeah.
when you how did your family feel about you pursuing acting?
Ah. Hmm. It sort of it would go back and forth, right? Sometimes they would be really, happy and proud, and there's some bragging rights, and then other times, especially, the business is feast and famine, right? So
Right.
those times when I was struggling, there'd be, you know, why don't you
Right.
why don't you go to teachers college? Why don't you, there would be that,
Right.
and yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So, so sometimes I think that they thought it was, just a very long phase. I just lost my earphones.
That's okay.
And then sometimes they're very proud. So it was uneven. And I think sometimes it was hard for my siblings because, I'd always come home with some crazy story about something. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a common reaction I find, with a lot of parents. It's mixed feelings or
Yeah.
one or
So
the other.
yeah. Yeah.
So when you were in Toronto working in film, in television, w- I know that, looking at your IMDb, there you couple of, day players, couple of, there was a couple of credits, and this Dead Ringers came around, which was your big break. Now,
It was. It was.
did
Yeah.
it come in a traditional way where your agent sent you for an audition, and how did you get the part?
Okay. Can I tell you a funny story?
Please.
Okay. So I had a boyfriend at the time, and we were prior to that we were watching Brideshead Revisited. And in those days you didn't binge watch, you watched every week, right? You were
Yeah.
there Monday night. So, and I remember out of the blue, I pointed at Jeremy Irons and I said, I'm going to work with him. And my
Oh wow.
boyfriend at the time went, yeah, right. Yeah, right. I've talked to him
Supportive
since.
guy.
Yeah, right. Like you wish. And I was young and green, and there would be no reason why I would think I'd work with, Jeremy Irons. And the whole world was crazy about Brideshead at the time.
Mm.
And so when my agent called and said that I had an audition for a David Cronenberg film, it was the second female lead, and I would be working with Jeremy Irons if I got it. I knew that he would be seeing a lot of people, but I knew it was mine. I just had to go and take it. Like I knew it was mine. And
Mm.
I had less on my resume than almost anybody in that waiting room. And I just knew. And then I had a callback. So I went to the callback, and then when my agent called me and told me I got it, she told me afterwards I should have warned her because I think I screamed so loudly with excitement. I just like, all right.
Oh my God.
So I did not have a lot of experience. I had like little roles, and suddenly you're on a Cronenberg set and you're working opposite Jeremy Irons, and the whole crew are like, just real seasoned professionals, and
Mm.
you just feel like you have to do your best, and you have to be very, very present and there, and there were long days because the CGI wasn't like it is now. So in any of the scenes where there were both of the twins, for instance, the dancing scene, right?
Right. I was gonna ask about
So
that.
yeah, so the dancing scene was fascinating. I had John Bayliss played the body double. So John Bayliss was a Toronto actor who's from England, very similar build to Jeremy. And so then they would switch costumes and they would switch sides in the dancing scene. So it was kind of a Heidi was the Oriole
That's how I
green villain,
figured they
right?
shot it. I was like, that must be a double when you can't
Yeah,
see his face, right?
yeah. So the thing is that whatever the technique was for the computer, if the dancing scene had to be nice and loose and sexy, like the three of us were going to go to bed and have a threesome,
Right. Right.
and so it had to be all kind of like like not a choreographed looking dance. It was all like loose and, oh, now you're touching me now.
Yeah.
And so if in one take, my head was here, and then they swapped them around and my head was here, we had to do it again because it had to match. We
Right.
couldn't have a shadowing effect, right? Because they were sort of overlaid on top of one another. So that dancing scene, I mean, they were shooting other things in between, so it wasn't just a dancing scene, but the dancing scene took 3 days
Wow.
in total, and they would shoot other things in between and come back to it. And but it was really 3 days. And then the dancing scene leads into the scene where Beverly, one of the twins, collapses,
Yes.
and I run out and start to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and Elliot throws me against the wall and says, "Leave him alone. He's my brother." Now, Jeremy was going on to another film right after, so we were literally shooting like double shifts without full turnaround. We were getting 2 meals a day instead of one. And so we were finishing up with that scene, and they had finished his close up, and they wrapped him for the day because he had to be back so early the next morning. And he said, "Well, what's Heidi still doing here then?" They go, "Well, we're turning the camera around for her close up, but we don't need you for that. We can just, we can grab her reaction without you." And he said, "No, we're both in the scene, and she was here for my close up. I will stay for her close up. That's absolutely not on." And he did. And even though that meant like less turnaround for him, and and even though he could have gotten home earlier and gotten some sleep, because his days were really long, and what a difficult role playing those two twins.
Oh, yeah. God,
Like,
yeah.
it was extraordinary. You always knew which one he was. You always knew, well, you just knew which twin you were talking to in between takes.
Yes. Yes.
They were twins, but they were different. And I mean, I felt that he didn't put in one, best performance. He put in two best performances
Oh, yeah.
in
He's
that.
extraordinary in it.
I think it's his best work. I do.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm a little attached to the film. But I mean, when people on Facebook go, "What's your favorite Cronenberg movie?" I always go, "Well, Dead Ringers, of course." But I've heard a lot of people say that they think it's that it's held up
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
over the years, and that and a lot of people say it's their favorite, and a lot of people put it in their top movies of all time, because it is so original.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and Genevieve Bujold was great in it too, and Jeremy was superb, just superb in it. So
Yeah, it's an extraordinary film, and I watched it again the other night for the second time, and it's a film that offers so much with each viewing because I saw so much more the second time around. I mean, there's so many themes in it in
yeah.
terms of this codependent relationship, which is truly dark and twisted, and this objectifying women and abusing women, and the drug addiction.
Yeah.
There's so the inability to look at oneself and try to fix their problems, which they could not do. I was like, this I liked it even more the second time. I was like, this
And
is
that's interesting you said about the objectifying women, right? Because I think that is a really important theme in it. And I
yes,
think
yes.
it is the opposite of being, a misogynistic movie. I think it's quite the opposite. I think that it sheds a light on
Oh, I agree.
on a great fear and the objectification, and when Stephen Lack is going to make those instruments, it's horrifying, right?
Mm.
And I mean, and the other line that always stuck out for me was when Genevieve Bujold says that if she didn't have a child, she'd never be a woman, she'd always be a little girl,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah,
that was really very interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That I really caught on to this time too, because I thought, um, is she? It's ambiguous, but is she made to feel that way, or does she truly feel that way? I mean,
Right.
it's sort of up. There's so much pressure on women to have kids, so some people have that maternal instinct and they a lot want children, but not everyone does. So whether that's an insecurity people poked at her, or you know, you
or
don't know.
is it from family as well? You know, I mean, I think
Right.
I felt that very much. You know, I watched as my younger siblings also had, you know, children before me, and I would feel that, you know, the sister-in-laws, my sister and my mom, my aunt, that I would feel them whispering in the kitchen, you know, poor Heidi, you know, you shouldn't have a child at, you know, at that time, and you better hurry up then. Yeah, and
Right.
I had the weirdest thing happen. I mean, it's almost like a Cronenberg movie. So this director in LA, I hadn't worked with her, I met her. She phones me and she says to me, I'm working with this, cinematographer, and she really wants to go the next step in her life, and this is where you come in. And she watched Dead Ringers, and she thinks you're perfect. And I thought, oh, obviously she's going to become a director. She's making the move from, you know, camera woman to director, and they're going to ask me to do a freebie, right? I was not prepared for the next step. The next step was that she wanted to be a mother and her eggs were old. And would I come to LA and do hormone, you know, treatments, because after watching Dead Ringer, she thought that she auditioned me. My eggs would be genetically fine or something, right?
Oh my
And I was
God.
blown away that this happened. And then the director said to me, "Think of how great it would be. You could see what you would have without all the mucky stuff of raising them." Right? It was like
Oh my God.
really. So I call my mother and I tell her the story because I think it's kind of interesting. And she said to me, well, why don't you sell your eggs? You sure as hell aren't using them.
Oh God.
Right.
Oh my God.
So so yes, I think, you know, and so, you know, I thought about that line, the you know, always being a girl and never being a woman
Yeah.
without being a mother, and that how much is that society? How much is that our own family? How much is that, you know, we have a need to procreate because we're afraid of death ourselves, and we want to be immortal. I'm not sure, but I just thought that, you know, someone sort of you know, auditioning me for my eggs was almost Cronenberg-esque.
I've never heard that happen to anyone. So that's
I
pretty,
said,
that's,
hold on. How do I know you're not going to scramble them? Huh?
yeah. Yeah. Don't mess
So
with my eggs, please.
don't mess with my eggs. They're mine. So
Well, you know, the thing that I also found, particularly the second time, is that it does have a certain sense of humor. I mean, from the time that they're even kids, when they go up to that young girl and could we have sex with you in the
that's
water?
right. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
an experiment, and you know, she tells them off. But that later, obviously, it's not. It becomes quite twisted because everything to them is an object, an
yeah.
experiment, even humans. And I love
Yeah,
how
they seem like they're sort of detached from the world except for the
exactly, yeah,
scientific mind, but they're not detached from each other, right?
right,
And that's why the you know, the tagline "separation can be a terrifying experience."
yes.
I think that tagline is very important for that film.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really extraordinary. And I just wanted to go back a little bit to the audition. Now, was Cronenberg at the initial audition, or was he at the callback only,
He
or
was at the initial audition. He was at the next audition. He was there. And I'll tell you this: when I first went back to get measured for wardrobe, he came and said, "Welcome to my set, my thespian." Right. So
nice.
he right he has such a great respect for actors. He treats them really well, and you know, we know it's his film. We know he's an auteur. We know all that, and yet he makes you feel like you're really a part of it. That's your film too. He really creates an environment that is very pro actor. And you know, people said to me afterwards, "It never gets any better than that." And I thought, I've just started out. Of course, it's going to be fantastic. It's always going to be great. But I can say that pretty much I've had some great experiences. I really have. But you know, better than that, than Cronenberg and Irons and you know, and that script, probably not, you know.
That's so interesting because I have interviewed. Have you ever met Leslie Hope? She's from
Yes.
Canada as well.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
she worked with my favorite writer, director, actor John Cassavetes, and she said the same thing. She was like 18 working with Cassavetes, Jenna Rollins, and Love Streams, and it, you know, how could you top that?
Yeah, and so everything ends up being a bit of a disappointment in a sense,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I've had some great stuff, and to be honest, when you know, doing my animal felt like bookends, because you know, who gets a lead at this age and gets to, you know, play everything from like out of her mind, drunk, tender, I mean, the whole gamut of human emotion. And I thought, wow, I haven't had this much fun on set in a very long time. So it felt like it sort of felt like bookends to me. Yeah.
Great. That's great to hear.
Mhm.
Do you remember what you had to do at the audition? What the scene was?
Yes, I do. I had to read the scene, fully clothed, mind you. I had to read the scene in the where I
Washroom?
come in the shower, the washroom
Oh yeah.
scene. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, and he really wanted, when I went back to do it, he really wanted the sense that I'd just been in bed with one, and it just like, why not? And you know, that's that tired, just been laid kind of
Right.
feeling. And so yeah, so that's and we joked too. We joked, and I had done a short film for a woman named Carol Anna McBride, who had been an AD or a second AD for him. And he said to me, "Oh, you just worked with Carol?" I said, "Yes." And he goes, "How was that?" And I said to him, "Well, she's cutting it in your editing room. Why don't you have a look?" I have no idea to this day whether he did have a look or not, but I did say that at the audition. Yeah.
Oh, hopefully you did.
Doesn't matter now. I got the part,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
That's
and
true.
it's great.
That's
And you know
true.
what? And he gave me a career, you know, because I
Right.
would have gone on doing small roles in TV shows, or you know, TV commercials, or you know, and all those things that they're great because you know, you pay the bills with them.
Hmm.
But you know, I made a big leap into, you know, getting a chance to you know, sometimes play leads in films.
Right.
And I also got to play in a lot of sort of indie, you know, interesting, weird films, instead of just the regular, you know,
Right.
stuff, right? So I think that Dead Ringers is, you know, one of the reasons for that. Yeah.
Hmm. And was the callback the same scene?
Yep,
This was did
It
the same
was the
scene
same
again.
thing. Yeah,
Okay.
we just wanted it done, you know, wanted to play with it and do it a bit differently. I mean, we may have done the throwing the pill scene too. I think the first time, I think we did the two, and he brought me back to do the, you know, the bathroom scene. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how did he work with actors? Was he very specific with what he wanted, take by take, or what
He
was that?
was and he wasn't. I don't know if you remember the scene where, you know, before I throw the pills, I'm sort of walking back and forth.
Yeah.
We've obviously had dinner with Elliot,
Right.
and
When he's watching TV.
he's watching
Yeah.
TV, and he's, you know, he's starting to take the pills because Beverly would be taking the pills. And at that time, he said to me, okay, I need you here just because I need to work for the shot and the segue into the next shot. I don't care how you get there. You can use whatever motivation you like. I really, you know, so that's up to you. Your acting's up to you. I just need you there. Can we do that? So, you know, so he was very specific in where he needed me to be, especially, you know, with the whole twinning thing, right? But he didn't tell me what I should be feeling or how I should. He never gave a line reading or said you should be doing this or you should be doing it like that. He really allowed actors to play. And that was great. I mean, there in that scene, I realized there's a word I said, you know, like a couple times in one speech, and I didn't realize that until we were on our feet doing it, and we were about to wrap for lunch, and I went, David, David, David. You know, I say this word a couple of times. I think I can do this differently. I think it can be better. And he turned around and said to the crew, yeah, we're not going to break for lunch quite yet. Heidi says she can do this better, so let's just
Oh
put the
wow.
camera on her and see. I'm oh, you know, that I better do that. And when I finished it, he turned around and said, and she was right. Well
Oh
done.
wow.
Okay, we break for lunch. So you know, that was great. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
God, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
And the
Because
now,
another director would have just gone, no, we've got it.
yeah, we've
Moving
got it. Yeah,
on. We've got it.
exactly.
It's fine, right?
Yeah.
But when I said that I thought I could do it better and differently, he trusted that maybe there was something else, that maybe there
Mm-hmm.
was something new in another take, and he was going to take that risk. And I think that's the difference between what makes a really great artist, like an artist that has to work in a collective, to someone, it's my way or the highway.
Right.
Because he was just, oh, okay, well, let's see what she gives me. And and no, I wasn't a first or second lead in that. And so I really didn't have power. But he was generous. He was very
Mm-hmm.
generous.
Do you remember if when he went back to do another take, do you know if that's the take that was used,
Yes, it
or
is.
it is? Okay, wow. So
Mhm.
there you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. I know, because
Is the
well,
take.
right. I suppose I suppose also because of the dialogue, you would have known, because you had said a certain line twice, or
Yeah.
yeah.
If not, then that meal penalty was for nothing.
Right, right. No,
Yeah.
the reason I asked that, because you never know when they go into editing and they're looking at it, and who knows why they may go with a certain,
You're
yeah,
right. You're completely right. And sometimes
yeah,
what feels right to you as an actor, uh,
yeah,
it
doesn't look
then
as good.
you look at something else, and it works. I did this movie with Malcolm McDowell, and I had to kiss him. And on that day, his young wife showed up on set, and so it was all heading towards this kiss in the film. And I mean, it was like, to me, it felt like, it was a very, very, very chaste kiss. And
Mhm.
so I went to the producers and I said, I think we're going to have to reshoot that, but we might want to not put it on the call sheet. And unbeknownst to me, Malcolm also said, I think we might want to reshoot that kiss scene. I don't think, you got what you wanted. And then we went and we saw the rushes, and no, it wasn't the passionate thing that was written, but it was so lovely.
Mm,
Neither of us were feeling it. We were just like, let's get this done, because it's the end of the day, and we don't want to upset his new wife.
right.
And and I hope that she doesn't watch this.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry
Uh,
if you're watching.
Sorry, but your marriage has lasted a long time, so it's
Yeah.
not a problem. It all worked out just
It's all
fine.
good.
And the kiss was chaste, and that's the one that they went for, so it's all good. But but it ended up being it gave it a different quality. And it worked, but we weren't feeling anything,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
so sometimes we don't know what the camera grabs, and what we're doing.
Right, right. Well, what I find so interesting about your character is that it's so mysterious as to, I mean, I think it's becomes pretty obvious that you're a girlfriend of Elliot,
Hmm.
but you're suddenly at that speech he's giving, and
Out of nowhere,
you're
there I
there.
am, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And I'm with Beverly saying, "Take mine," like don't mess up, right? Yeah, yeah,
yes, yes, exactly. And it was interesting because before then, there was no, neither of them had a relationship. It was about how they were tricking all these women and sleeping with both of them. So it was interesting to now see Elliot with you, but then the washroom scene where Beverly says, "Oh, I didn't realize you two were so friendly," and you said, "Well, we're not so friendly." And then I thought, "Well, that's interesting."
yeah.
So I was curious, did you make certain choices at the time about, like, what you were getting at there with in the washroom
Yeah,
scene,
because
or
there's not a lot of backstory,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
And now the washroom scene, thankfully, we actually shot we shot the Here Take Mine at the awards. We shot that first, and then I wasn't back on set for weeks.
Okay.
Um, and so in a sense, my introduction onto the film set was also my introduction in the film. And so at that point, I wouldn't say that everything was solidly formulated for me, because I mean, she was an interesting character, but it wasn't all in the script.
Right.
And so then we shot the dancing scene, and I think that the last scene I did was the bathroom scene,
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so so there was already certain chemistry on set from the other scenes. But because we did the dancing beforehand and it's out of order, there was a sense that she was into having them both. I mean, she was down for it.
Right.
But I also played her like she had a career and she was an independent woman, and this didn't muck up her independent life in a sense, right? But I also played her that I felt that she was game because Elliot was game, and she would do whatever to please Elliot.
Right.
Right. She would, but I mean, not that she didn't want to, but it was like, sure, right, so all of those things came into it, and and I hope that it created a character that had some layers, and it wasn't just I'm a party girl. I mean, she was supposed to be a doctor as well, so that's why she's at the awards. And and she's very cross when he's taking the pills, and she really sees that as a time when the brothers need to don't be ridiculous. You don't put it in your mouth, it doesn't go into your bloodstream. I mean, she's very, very, very straightforward, and to me that's the moment where she's saying, yeah, it's all fun and games, but be done with him and choose me.
Right. Right. No, I thought that worked really well, because it added such mystery as to who you are, and every time we see you, it's a different side. Because at first I thought, well, like, is she a prostitute? Because we see the prostitute twins.
The twins, yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe at this point Elliot can see that Beverly is so disturbed by what they were doing when they get caught, that he thought, okay, well, if we're out in the open with one woman who's okay with it, then maybe that will all work out. And of course it doesn't. So
yeah, I think it's that, but I think at some point Elliot starts to worry that Beverly's getting too attached to the Genevieve Bujold character, to Claire, right?
Yeah.
So that allows me to step forward a bit more. And so I think that if he wasn't becoming more and more attached to the Genevieve Bujold character, then I don't think Elliot would have been as attached to me at that point. I think that there was a bit of tit for tat there. But I mean, the other interesting, there's a lot of interesting lines here. The other interesting line, another line that always struck me is, "You don't have a woman until I have her."
Right.
So in a sense, if I'm having a thing with Elliot, and obviously it's not a monogamous relationship with Elliot, he's a player, then Elliot doesn't really feel like he's having me unless his brother has me too.
Right. Of course.
So it would be important for Elliot that Beverly also experienced me. Then he, so I mean, that is the perversity of their, their closeness, their enabled relationship, right? So
which that the last scene we see you in again, because it, because I suppose at least for me, we're making different judgment calls about what you're like or who you are, and then, like I said, it's such a different side, because you're just like, look, forget about Beverly, you got to cut you got to cut it off, and it's it's very different. It's very, very different part from what we saw.
Yeah. So I mean, so it's the old saying that mothers say, it's all fun and games till someone gets hurt, right?
Exactly.
It's very much that. And so she has a career and she lets loose and likes to have some fun, and she likes Elliot, but this has just gone too far. It's one of those, it's just gone too far, right? And then she's out of it. She's not around for the final double suicide. She's gone by then, because she's there's a self-preservation, I think, about her. I mean, interestingly, when the first day of the first scene, speaking with Jeremy, he said to me that he thought that my character was the more interesting one of the two women, even though it's a smaller role, and because of that mystery, because of that changeability. And he actually asked David if his wife could play that role. But
oh, wow.
I was already cast, so
Tough luck,
so
Jeremy.
he liked it enough that he did go to bat for his wife to play that role.
Did the two of you get along, or was there any was there any tension as a result of not getting his wife, or what was he
No,
like? Yeah.
absolutely. No, he was no, he was great. I mean, I think he told me that so that I'd be happy, maybe not having
Oh,
the leading
okay.
female role. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it was just even because he said that early on, and I think he just wanted me to know that it was a great opportunity and a great and a
Oh,
great
okay.
role, even if
Right.
even if I wasn't in every day, and I already knew it was a great opportunity.
Hmm.
But no, I loved working with him. He there were times where he was more goofy than anyone would ever expect him to be. For instance, there was a gray carpet on the floor where we were dancing in, and that incredible apartment that the twins have, that was entirely created in the studio. And sometimes right before take, he would rub his feet on the carpet, and then he would give me a shock in my nose right before action and think that was hysterical, right? So that is really goofy. And when someone does that, you can't feel as intimidated by them, right?
Right.
Because I never felt that I'm a great star and you're just a little Canadian actor, which sometimes I feel, sometimes there are some American actors who come up who will make us feel like we're lesser just because we're Canadian and really
Right.
not take into account the body of work
Of
we
course.
have.
Yeah.
But totally not that way with him. It was all about making the best film possible, and if it meant going extra hours, so be it. And really about getting things perfect, right? He was a
Mm.
real perfectionist, and so I never had a difficult day with him on set. Every day was a delight. In fact, I had so much fun doing that film. I remember the first cast and crew screening, and I was kind of surprised at how dark the film was because my experience of the film was a great time.
Right.
And I mean, of course, I knew it was a dark film. I read the script. Come on, but still, my experience of it was just I was so happy to be on
Right.
set every day.
Right.
And so when I watched it, it was so dark. And so and
Yes.
when it
Yes.
opened with a film festival. It opened the Toronto Film Festival, which was called the Festival of Festivals in those days.
Right.
And Norman Snider was the co-writer with David Cronenberg. And so I think that they both wondered who I would bring as a date. And one thought I'd bring really an intellectual kind of guy. The other thought I'd bring a beefy kind of guy. And I brought my mom.
Ah. Showed them both up. There you go.
Showed them both up. Now, the
Yeah.
interesting thing about my mom is that she's an identical twin.
Oh, wow.
So sitting there watching the world premiere with my mother, who is a twin, was very interesting. And my mother was very proud of me for being in it. But she was so affected by the film as a twin. And there were so many things that they got right about that codependency.
Mm.
My mom
Mm.
and my aunt would, there could be 5,000 greeting cards. My mom and my aunt would buy each other the exact same one year after year. And there's so many sort of psychically connected things between them. And I always thought that I had two moms until I got to kindergarten and found out that people don't have two moms. So that was an interesting experience to have had twin mothers, and then to be in a film that deals with the
Yeah. What
codependency of
coincidence.
twins.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
And in my
extraordinary.
animal, I have two red-haired twin boys. So twin, and my book, Two White Queens, are albino twins. So twins do
It's
keep
followed
coming
you.
up. Yes, yeah. I should have been
That's
a twin.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you now, as an actor myself, I remember I had a teacher who once said, nerves will follow you your whole career. And I think that's so true. So what was it like going into this, before those cameras start rolling? Were you nervous? Like
Yeah, of
really
course.
nervous, or,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
was that
I
like?
was really, really happy that my first day, all I had to do is say, "Here, take mine,"
Right.
right,
Right.
and react. I didn't have a big dialogue scene, and I didn't have nudity. It was
Mm.
a pretty easy scene to start off with, and so I was I was really thankful for that. But so I've been at this a long time.
Right.
Dead Ringers is how old? 35 years?
35. Yeah. 88
Yeah,
it came out.
yeah. So 35 years old. And I will tell you this. I am nervous every first take of everything I do. And I can hear my heart pounding in my ears that the first time that the cameras roll, every single time.
Right.
And as soon as I know they've got the master, as soon as they say we've got one, I'm 100% fine.
Right. Yeah.
Until that first I've got one, I never stop feeling like I have to prove myself on set. I never stop feeling like, do I have the character, until I hear that first, that very first take, we got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go
Yeah.
away. And I think, it's got to go away at some point. Come on. I'm old. I've been in this game a long time, but it does not go away. And
Right.
maybe the day it does go away, there's a day that I need to be worried,
Right. Yeah. I think that was a teacher once told me that was an Uta Hagen quote when, she went on stage once to do a play and she wasn't nervous. It was one of her worst performances. It's like,
Yeah,
it helps in a way.
it's an adrenaline thing, right? And it
Exactly.
makes you a
Yeah.
bit more alive. And
Yeah.
I think you have to have that sort of heightened reality, even if film is real. I think that there still has to be a sense of being really present. And
Mhm.
so I think that nervousness before the first take, I think it aids you.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's enjoyable, but
Right.
have you ever heard of the term yipping?
I haven't.
Yeah, so yipping is when you know your lines inside out, and you know your character inside out, and you've been shooting and you're fine, and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of a take and you've got no idea.
You blank.
You're totally blank. And because you do, and because there's a whole crew, every time you get to that line, you have a moment of, oh, here it is. So I didn't know till recently that that's called yipping, and that's
Oh, wow.
at some point every actor has that, where you
Right.
know, and I think that comes when you're comfortable, when you're
Yes.
really comfortable,
Yeah.
and then then you were daydreaming, and someone gave you a cue. It's like, oh yeah, that's me, right?
Right.
Yeah. And
Right.
I had that on early days on stage, where I just felt so comfortable in
Mm.
front of the audience, and then we were supposed to be doing things sort of in behind where the action was, and then we come forward, when it was our scene, and I was miming cooking or something, and I realized suddenly that I was so into the mime that I had no idea when I was supposed to talk or what I was supposed to say.
Mm.
And so I think that was my first experience of yipping, and that comes from being too comfortable. You can't be too comfortable.
I'll remember that. I'll remember that word.
Yeah, yipping. Yeah.
Did you keep in touch with either Cronenberg or Irons over the years?
Well, I bump into David off and on in Toronto, because it's his city too.
Right.
Jeremy Irons, I sent my book, Two White Queens and One Eyed Jack, to when it was an arc, and it was the beginning of the pandemic, and he read it and he loved it. So he blurbed my book, Two White Queens and One Eyed Jack.
Yeah, I saw a quote online somewhere and I was like, oh, good. So they must still talk. Which is
Yeah,
great.
so I sent that to him to read, and he did say, when he wrote me back, he did say that he thought, oh no, I guess I have to read this. But then he said when he picked it up, he couldn't put it down. So thankfully, it wasn't too arduous for him. And then after I got my quote from him, I sent it absolutely cold to John Irving, and got a blurb from him as well.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
but that was cold. I had never met John Irving, and then I thought, maybe only people with the initials J.I. should blurb my book.
Yeah, who else do we know?
Julio Iglesias, is he around? Is he alive? Yeah, he'd be good.
Yeah, try him next.
Yeah.
This is an obvious answer, but recently the CBC list of the 150 greatest films directed by Canadians came out, and Dead Ringers was number 7 on that list. So what was that? What was it like to get that news?
Yeah, I thought it should be 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, why is this not number 1? Only 7?
Yeah, I was surprised it was down as low as 7. Honestly, because but there were also some films on there that I thought should have been on that list and weren't. So I would have been surprised if it wasn't on the list. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was lower down because it's made so many lists over the years,
Right.
so
Yeah,
many
it has.
times,
Yeah.
and it's been around for so long. So it really doesn't need the boost that I mean, that film has played constantly since it was made. It hasn't,
Yeah.
I talked to ACTRA in the royalty department, and they said, "Oh my goodness, this film's never stopped playing somewhere at some time." So I mean, so that's extraordinary that the film has had a life the whole time.
Well, if anyone is interested, they are showing Dead Ringers at the Paradise Theater here in Toronto. If you're watching this before July 22nd of 2023, seeing that these videos will last forever on YouTube. But so Saturday, July 22nd, 2023 at 7 o'clock at Paradise Theater, part of a Cronenberg double feature, because the top 10 on the CBC list are showing at Paradise Theater. So if people want to check it out on the big screen, please do so. I think I'm gonna go.
I might go just see if anyone recognizes me.
Yeah. Do autographs in the lobby.
I haven't seen it on the big screen in such a long time.
Is that right?
So that might be great. It might be really depressed though, because I was so young and I'm so old now. I can say I held up just as well as that film did.
Yeah, there you go. You did.
Thank you. Nothing like fishing for a compliment.
Right. Well, yeah. Heidi's doing autographs in the lobby. That'll get the audience out.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll see you there.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate your time, Heidi. Thanks so much for.
I had a great time. Thank you. Yeah. We'll talk when my animal comes out, and and
yes, let me know.
We'll talk then too. Okay, we'll do.
Let me know, and please come again sometime, and hopefully we can meet in the city sometime as well.
Well, since we're in the same, I'll see you in the lobby on the 22nd. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you're interested in becoming a member of my Patreon, head over to the link patreon.com/RobertBellissimo@the-movies for full details. You can also leave a donation directly to my YouTube channel by pressing the thanks link, which you will find just below the video frame, right beside the like and dislike links. Just click the thanks link, and from there, you can leave a donation if you choose to. And lastly, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is absolutely free to do so. By pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the Movies logo, you will see it floating above my head in the top left corner to your top left. In just a second, just click on that. And then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release one of my new episodes. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you in the next episode.